Welcome to my channel. Commercial Laws Indian Contract Act 1872. Introduction. This act was passed by British India and principles based on English common law. It is applicable to whole India except the states of Jammu and Kashmir. This act is commenced on 1st September 1872 and applies to all contracts of the India. This act is commenced on 1st September 1872 and applies to all contracts in India. Important terms that are used in this act: obligation, enforceability, agreement, proposal, acceptance, void agreement, and contract, voidable contract. Obligation is also known as Willküm juris. It is the legal type one. It also means duties. It is an undertaking to do or not to do definite act or acts. It is undertaken to do or not to definite acts. Act or acts. Enforceable. Every agreement does not become a contract unless it is enforceable law. It will be enforced if it is coupled with obligation. Enforceability means creating a legally binding parties. Legally binding obligation between the parties. Every agreement does not become a contract unless it is enforceable by law. It will be enforceable if it is coupled of obligation. It is enforced if it is coupled with obligation. Enforceability means creating a legally binding obligation between the parties. Once again, Indian Contract Act was passed by during the British India. Principle based on English commercial laws. English common law. In principles based on English common law. This applicable whole India except the states of Jammu Kashmir. This act is commenced on 1st September 1872 and applies to all contracts in India. Some important terms are used: obligation, enforceability, agreement, proposal, acceptance, and void agreement, contract, and voidable contract. Obligation is known as Willküm juris, which means legal. It is the legal type bond. It also means duties. It is an undertaking to do or not to do a definite act or acts. Enforceability. An agreement does not become a contract unless it is enforceable by law. An agreement does not become a contract unless it is enforceable by law. It will be enforced if it is coupled with obligation. Enforceability, creating legal binding obligation between the parties. Next, an agreement. An agreement is the preliminary to the contract. It is the result of offer and acceptance. In other words, an agreement is formed when the party makes a proposal to another and the other party accepts it, and other party is accepted. An agreement establishes the relationship between the parties. An agreement is the preliminary to the contract. It is the result of offer and acceptance. In other words, an agreement is formed when one party makes a proposal and the other party accepted and the other party is accepted. An agreement is established relationship between the parties. According to Section 2E of Indian Contract Act defines every promisee or set of promisee forming a consideration from each other. An agreement is a preliminary to the contract. It is result of offer and acceptance. In other words, an agreement is formed when a party makes the proposal and other party is accepted. An agreement establishes relationship between the parties. According to Section 2 of E, the Indian Contract Act defines an agreement every promise and set of promise forming consideration each other. Next, what is contract? The word contract was from origin from Latin word contract, which means drawn together. According to Section 2, subsection H of Indian Contract Act, an agreement is enforceable by law. A void agreement. A void means empty. An agreement not enforceable is said to be void. An agreement is not said to be void is called agreement. According to 2G defines a void. According to Section 2G, subsection G defines contract acts in a contract which ceases to enforceable by law. Next, what essential elements of valid contract? The key elements of these 10: agreement, intention to legal relationship, intention to create a legal relationship, free consent of the parties, capacity of party contract, lawful consideration, lawful object, certain in terms, possibility, performance, not declared to be void, legal formality, agreement, intention to create a legal relationship, free consent of the parties, capacity of the contract, lawful consideration, lawful object, certain of terms, possibility of performance, not declared to be void, legal formalities. This is the 10 key elements of valuation shells of valid contract. Agreement, intention to create a legal relationship, free consent of the parties, capacity of a contract, lawful consideration, lawful object, certain of terms, possibility of performance, not declared to be void, legal formalities. So once again we repeat the topic. First introduction, back to start. This act was passed by British India. Principles based on English common law. This act is applicable all India. This act is applicable to whole India. This act is applicable to whole India except the states of Jammu and Kashmir. This act is commenced on 1st September 1872 and applies all the contract in India. Some illegal obligation, enforceability, agreement, a proposal, acceptance, void agreement, contract, voidable contract. Obligation also known as Wilkim juris res. It means it is the legal type 1. It also means duties. It is an undertaking to do or not to do definite act or acts. It is an undertaking to do or not to do a definite act or acts. Enforceability. Every agreement does not become a contract unless it is enforceable by law. And every agreement does not become a contract unless it is enforceable by law. It will create legal it will be enforceable. It will be enforced if it is coupled with obligation. Enforceability means creating a legal binding obligation between the parties. An agreement is a preliminary to the contract. An agreement is the preliminary to the contract. It is the result of offer and acceptance. In other words, one agreement is formed. An agreement is formed, and one person makes a profit. One person makes a proposal to another, and the other person accepts it. An agreement establishes a relationship between the parties. According to Section E of Indian Contract Agreement says, every promisee or set of promisee forming a consideration for each other. Every promisee or set of promisee for consideration forming consideration for each other. Contract. The word contract owes it is origin from Latin word contract. Which means drawn together. According to Section 2H of Indian Contract Act defines an agreement is enforceable. An agreement is enforceable by law. Void agreement. And void means empty. An agreement enforceable. An agreement is enforceable by law is said to be void. According to G, 2 subsection G defines void contract and a contract which ceases to enforceable by law. A contract which ceases to enforceable by law. A contract which ceases to enforceable by law. Void means empty. An agreement not enforceable by law is said to be void. According to Section 2 subsection G defines a void contract means a contract which ceases to enforceable by law. A contract which ceases to be enforceable by law. Essential elements of agreement and intention to create a legal relationship, free consent of the parties, capacity of a contract, lawful consideration, lawful object, and possible certain of terms, possibility of performance not declared to be void, and legal formality not declared to be void. This is the 10 elements of Valid contract agreement, intention to create a legal partner, legal relationship, free consent to the parties, capacity of the parties, lawful consent, lawful consideration, lawful object in certain of terms, possibility of performance not declared to be void, legal formalities. Agreement, intention to to create the legal relationship, free consent of the parties, capacity of the contract, lawful consultation, lawful object, certain of terms, certainty of terms, possibility of performance not declared to be void, and legal formalities. This is the essential of elements of valid contract. We discuss it deeply in next videos. Please like it video and share it and subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon in the below. Thanks for watching.